The Brazilian government holds emergency meetings to discuss the Trump administration's deporting procedures with the nationals of the South American country. But the Venezuelan National Assembly approved an agreement to support the call for elections made by the Electoral Council. And in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, several citizens mobilized in Kinshasa city in support of the country's armed forces. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The Brazilian government held an emergency meeting Tuesday to discuss the conditions in which the Trump administration is deporting the South American country's nationals. The meeting takes place one day after the Charge d'Affaires of the United States Embassy, Gabriel Escobar, was summoned by the Brazilian Foreign Ministry to explain why Brazilians are being deported in handcuffs. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss the terms of the deportation agreement with Washington and to define strategies to face future cases. The Brazilian government indicated that its objective is not to provoke confrontations, but to make sure that its nationals are respected by Washington. In this context, Brazilian government rejected the treatment received by its nationals from U.S. authorities after the first group of deportees arrived in handcuffs and shackles and claimed they had been mistreated during the deportation process. The Brazilian government ratified its determination to prevent similar cases from happening again, especially with the arrival of new flights of deportees in the coming days. Lula da Silva's administration said it remains attentive to the changes in the U.S. immigration policy in order to guarantee the protection, security and dignity of its nationals in the North American country. Meanwhile, an Italian Navy ship arrived in Albania on Tuesday with 49 migrants it has intercepted in international waters. The migrants were taken to special centers in Albania to check their asylum applications after the third such attempt following earlier obstacles raised by Italian courts. The 49 will be held at a reception center in the port of Shenzhen, 66 kilometers northwest of the capital, before being taken to an accommodation center in Jader, 22 kilometers to the east. The Italian Minister of Interior did not disclose the nationalities of the migrants. However, local media say they are from Bangladesh, Egypt, the Ivory Coast and Gambia. The first flight of Colombian nationals deported from the United States landed in Colombia on Tuesday. Around 110 people arrived in the South American country on board a Colombian Air Force plane, not a U.S. government plane as other deportations. Unlike previous deportations, this process was carried out in conditions that guarantee respect for human rights without the use of chains, shackles or other measures that violate people's dignity. According to the Colombian presidency, the citizens have no criminal records or arrest warrants, which contradict previous claims by the President of the United States. The President of Honduras, Xiomara Castro, warned that she is considering closing U.S. bases in national territory in view of the massive deportations executed by Trump's administration. The Honduran president stated that her government will be forced to reevaluate the cooperation policies with the United States, specifically in the military field, following the enormous expulsions of Hondurans from that country. The head of state mentioned the Soto Cano Air Base, alias Palmerola, which has housed the U.S. Southern Command's Joint Task Force Bravo since 1982, which would lose all justification for remaining in the Central American nation if hostile measures against Honduran citizens are taken. The statements come as a response to Trump's stance, who has already accepted deportations of migrants, of which around 560,000 are Hondurans. In Argentina, the drivers' union La Fraternidad staged a 6-hour rail strike after wage negotiations broke down. The union is demanding the payment of a basic food basket equivalent to 10% of workers' salaries, around $153,000 to compensate for inflation. The strike will affect all the lines operated by the company, leaving 1 million passengers without transport. All lines in the metropolitan area are also affected, leading to long lines at bus stops near stations. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Venezuelan National Assembly approved an agreement to support a call for elections made by the National Electoral Council (CNE). During the Assembly session, the lawmakers declared that the far right will not use again the democratic system to provoke violence in the country. On the other hand, the President of Parliament, Jorge Rodriguez, proposed the CNE to take into account the last laws passed by the legislative power to prevent criminal groups and those who do not recognize the electoral results from participating again in elections of this nature in the country. Rodriguez also congratulated the electoral power for its efficiency in establishing the elections date and said that was an essential moment to defend the peace in the nation.
I think this is an essential moment for the defense of peace and of the electoral results established by the Venezuelan people through their votes.
The President of the National Assembly also affirmed that the far-right opposition is not above the Venezuelan organic law and called for the Bolivarian legislation to be applied to them for their actions against the nation.
They are under the legal status of your organic law, Libertador Simón Bolívar, and it has to be applied to them and their leaders and their political parties in Venezuela.
In another part of his address to the National Assembly, Rodriguez reiterated that the United Socialist Party of Venezuela and the Patriotic Pole will recognize and respect the results of the next April 27th elections.
No matter what it is, the result of the elections of the National Assembly and governors of the State Assembly of April 2025, the United Socialist Party of Venezuela and the Great Patriotic Pole will recognize all of the electoral results that come from the polls on April 27th.
In Cuba, students from all over the country marched in commemoration of the 172nd anniversary of the birth of José Martí, the island's national hero. The historic March of the Torches illuminated the streets of Havana, reminding the world of the prevalence of the ideals of the independence hero and anti-imperialist leader José Martí. In this sense, young Cubans, mostly university students, marched throughout the city to pay tribute to the most universal of Cubans. Moreover, the event was accompanied by Army General Raúl Castro Ruz, significant leader of the Cuban Revolution, and Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez, President of the Republic. During the event, authorities recalled Martí's legacy and called on the country's youth to express their pride for their homeland and the Cuban Revolution. In the framework of the commemoration of the 172nd anniversary of the birth of José Martí, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel said, "The flame of admiration and respect for the apostle of our independence, who is also the apostle of our profound anti-imperialism, is growing every year. Martí lives on all of those who do not allow themselves to be dazzled or intimidated by the brutal and violent North that despises us." During the Chinese New Year celebrations, President Xi Jinping highlighted China's progress in modernization despite the complexities of the global economy.
到来，我们在这里欢聚一堂， As the Chinese New Year of the Snake approaches, we gather here to welcome a new year. First, on behalf of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China and the State Council, I would like to extend best wishes to all of you. I wish Chinese of all ethnic groups, compatriots in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, the Special Administrative Region of Macau and Taiwan, and overseas Chinese a Happy New Year.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Find a short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, several citizens mobilized in Kinshasa city in support of the country's armed forces. According to local media, the demonstrators attacked the embassies of France, the United States, Belgium, Kenya and Uganda, claiming that these nations support Rwanda's aggression. Under the slogans, "No to the massacre of the Congolese people" and "No to the plundering of our minerals," the protesters denounced Rwanda's complicity in the crisis of violence that the country is facing. Moreover, the citizens rejected the actions of the M23 fighters and showed their support for the armed forces of the country. In addition, they expressed their solidarity with the villages suffering from violence and insecurity. Meanwhile, the United Nations organization warned about the humanitarian crisis that the population of the Democratic Republic of the Congo is facing due to the armed conflict. In addition, the spokesperson of the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, Jens Laerke, warned that the residents of the city of Goma, the capital of the North Kivu, have reached a critical moment due to the imminent shortage of food and drinking water. Moreover, the international body also indicated that there are several corpses laying in the street of the city, and hospitals are crowded with dozens of wounded civilians. The ephemeral calm that had prevailed in northern Kivu in the east of the Democratic Republic of the Congo has been disrupted since fighting has restarted in Goma, the capital city. M23 rebels, backed by more than 4,000 Rwandan soldiers, seized the regional capital, and early Tuesday morning fighting began in the cities of Bierere and Bukavu, bordering Rwanda. In this sense, telecommunications remain cut off and many areas have no power or water supply in the cities. According to local medical reports, there are so far 17 dead and more than 350 wounded. Meanwhile, Congolese President Félix Tshisekedi is expected to address a message to the country on Tuesday on the eve of the United Nations Security Council, which will focus on the situation in North Kivu. On Tuesday night, Israeli occupation forces carried out a series of raids on villages west of Ramallah, West Bank. In Beit Tiyu, soldiers raided the house of a prisoner who was to be released under the Gaza ceasefire agreement, threatening reprisals over a possible public celebration. These raids, which did not require a warrant, were repeated in the Deir Ammar area. The Israeli authorities carry out these operations under the pretext of finding wanted Palestinians, provoking clashes with the local population. More than 300,000 people have crossed from southern Gaza into the north as the United Nations warns that needs on the ground remain immense. According to Al Jazeera's team on the ground, many of the returnees set up their makeshift shelters near the ruins of their destroyed homes in northern Gaza, starting their lives again from scratch. United Nations special rapporteurs and independent experts say Israel's repression of Palestinians in the occupied West Bank is escalating with no end in sight. Israel's war on Gaza has killed at least 47,354 Palestinians and wounded 111,563 since October 7, 2023.
Look at this scene, a scene of complete destruction. There is no village that was destroyed, like Marwaihan, honestly. Complete destruction in Marwaihan. May God help the people of Marwaihan. Since yesterday morning, in coordination with the Lebanese army, we've been working on reopening roads inside the village in order to facilitate the entry of the village residents to inspect their destroyed homes.
The president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, rejected any possibility of activation of the Russian Nord Stream gas pipelines which supply Europe and called for their dismantling. According to the Polish head of state, the pipeline represents an energy and military threat to Ukraine, Poland, Slovakia and other Central European countries, and is also a symbol of Russia's economic domination over Europe. On the other hand, experts warned about the implications for the European economy to stop buying cheap gas from Russia, and that the decision would only benefit the United States and some of its allies. In this context, the Danish government authorized the shutdown of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and granted a permit for the repair of the structures damaged by the September 2022 sabotage. The permit was granted to Gazprom's subsidiary Nord Stream 2 AG to prevent gas from leaking into the Baltic Sea by installing plugs at the damaged ends of the pipeline. The Nord Stream 2 pipeline project cost $11 billion and was completed in 2021. It was intended to pump gas from Russia to Germany and the European market. We have come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.